Ladies and gentlemen, sisters and friends, as we step into 2026, I want to begin by asking you one simple question. When was the last time you truly focused on yourself? Not your family, not your career, not your responsibilities, but you. In a world that constantly tells women to give, to care, to serve, and to sacrifice, very few are told to pause and look inward. But today, I invite every woman listening to make 2026 the year of you. The year where you learn that self-focus is not selfish, it's sacred. Self-focus is not selfish, it's sacred. This single realization has the power to redefine how a woman lives, loves, and leads her life in 2026. For far too long, women have been conditioned to believe that caring for themselves means neglecting others. Society celebrates their sacrifices, praises their strength when they carry the burdens of others, but rarely encourages them to pause and nurture their own souls. Yet, the truth is that a woman who prioritizes her own well-being is not taking away from anyone. She is simply giving from a place of strength, not exhaustion. Every great transformation begins within. When a woman decides to turn her focus inward, she doesn't become selfish, she becomes self-aware. She starts to understand her needs, her emotions, and her limits. She recognizes that peace of mind is not a luxury, it is a necessity. Just as we charge our phones daily to keep them running, our minds and hearts too need recharging. But how many times do we allow ourselves that luxury? How often do we sit in silence and ask, what do I really need today? For many women, this question feels uncomfortable because they have been taught that their needs must always come second. Yet the moment a woman begins to focus on herself, she discovers an untapped reservoir of energy, creativity, and confidence. Focusing on yourself is not about ignoring your responsibilities. It's about performing them with greater balance and clarity. When a woman takes care of her own mind, she brings peace into her home. When she nurtures her body, she gains the strength to pursue her goals. When she invests in her growth, she becomes a source of inspiration for others. The most powerful women in history were not those who tried to please everyone. They were those who remained anchored in self-awareness and purpose. They understood that to light up the world, they first needed to keep their own flame alive. The sacredness of self-focus lies in intention. When you choose to focus on yourself, you are not closing doors on others. You are opening a new door to your own potential. It means learning to say no without guilt, to rest without apology, to dream without limitation. It means setting boundaries that protect your peace and making choices that align with your true values. A woman who values herself doesn't need external validation. Her confidence radiates from within. She doesn't chase attention. She attracts respect. She doesn't compete. She creates. In 2026, it's time for women to understand that self-focus is the foundation of genuine empowerment. True empowerment doesn't come from external achievements alone. It comes from internal alignment. When a woman aligns her thoughts with her purpose, her actions gain direction. When she prioritizes her inner peace, she responds to life with grace instead of reacting in frustration. When she learns to silence the noise of the world and listen to her own heart, she becomes unstoppable. The beauty of self-focus is that it creates a ripple effect. A woman who values her time teaches others to respect it. A woman who speaks kindly to herself sets an example for others to do the same. A woman who takes care of her health inspires her children to adopt healthier habits. In nurturing herself, she nurtures the future. And this is where the sacredness lies, not in isolation, but in transformation. So focusing on yourself is not about building walls, it's about building strength. It's not about turning away from others. It's about turning inward to find your center. In 2026, every woman must remember that she is her greatest project. The more time she invests in her growth, the more peace she brings into the world. Self-focus is not a rejection of duty, it is a celebration of dignity. It is the divine reminder that you cannot serve the world fully until you have learned to serve yourself with love, patience, and purpose. You cannot pour from an empty cup. This truth, though simple, carries a depth that every woman in 2026 must embrace. Life today moves faster than ever before. Expectations are higher, responsibilities are heavier, and the demand to constantly be enough never stops. In the middle of all this noise, women often forget the most essential principle of living a fulfilling life. You cannot give what you no longer have within you. Whether it is love, care, energy, or inspiration, everything you share must come from a source that is full. When that source runs dry, so does your strength, your joy, and your sense of purpose. Women are natural givers. They give their time, their emotions, their energy, and their hearts to others. They manage homes, careers, relationships, and countless unseen tasks, often without acknowledgement or rest. But what happens when giving becomes endless and refilling becomes rare? Burnout creeps in quietly. Smiles become forced, patience turns into frustration, and life begins to feel like a series of obligations rather than opportunities. This is not because women lack strength. It's because they have been conditioned to give endlessly without replenishment. True strength is not in how much you can endure. It is in knowing when to pause and restore yourself. When a woman learns to fill her own cup first, everything in her life begins to shift. She wakes up with clarity instead of chaos, makes decisions out of peace instead of pressure, and gives out of abundance instead of emptiness. Taking care of yourself is not a sign of weakness, it is the foundation of resilience. It means recognizing your emotional limits and listening to your body when it whispers for rest. It means allowing yourself moments of stillness without guilt. Because when you rest, reflect, and recharge, you return stronger, wiser, and more capable of serving others with authenticity. The idea of filling your own cup first may sound selfish to some, especially in cultures that glorify sacrifice. But imagine a candle trying to light another candle when its flame is gone out. It's impossible. The same is true for you. The love and compassion you give others will only have depth and warmth if it originates from a heart that is nourished. Self-care is not indulgence. It is an act of responsibility. You cannot be your best self for your family, your work, or your dreams if you are constantly running on empty. Filling your cup does not always require grand gestures. It can be as simple as setting aside 10 minutes of silence every morning, reading something that uplifts you, going for a walk, or disconnecting from social media to reconnect with yourself. It is about doing small things that bring you peace and realigning your energy with gratitude and purpose. Each moment of stillness refuels your mind, just as water revives a wilting plant. The more you nurture yourself, the more naturally you begin to glow, not with exhaustion, but with fulfillment. A woman who keeps her cup full doesn't wait for others to validate her worth. She understands that peace is an inside job. She knows when to give, but she also knows when to step back. She realizes that saying no to others sometimes means saying yes to herself, and that is perfectly okay. When you start prioritizing your emotional well-being, the quality of your relationships improves, your productivity rises, and your sense of direction becomes clearer. You stop living reactively and start living intentionally. In 2026, women must see rest, self-care, and personal boundaries not as luxuries but as essential tools for success. You cannot build your dreams on a foundation of fatigue. The world needs women who are not only strong but also balanced. Women who lead with clarity, not chaos. And that clarity comes only when your cup is full. Remember, you are not here to merely survive. You are here to thrive, to shine brightly, to give freely, and to live meaningfully. But only if you remember to refill the source of your light. Because when your cup overflows, everyone around you is blessed by your abundance. Don't compare progress in a world where everyone's life is displayed through carefully curated screens. Comparison has quietly become one of the greatest thieves of happiness. Women, especially in this digital age, are constantly exposed to images of perfection. Flawless faces, ideal bodies, dream careers, and seemingly effortless success. Yet behind every picture lies a story untold, struggles unseen, and imperfections carefully hidden. The danger begins when you start measuring your worth against someone else's highlight reel. Comparison doesn't inspire, it drains. It convinces you that you are not enough even when you are growing beautifully in your own way. The truth is that every woman's journey is uniquely her own. You cannot compare your beginning to someone else's middle, nor your chapter 5 to another's chapter 20. Progress is deeply personal. It is not about moving faster, it is about moving forward. One step, one lesson, one victory at a time. The race of life is not meant to be run in competition with others, but in collaboration with your own potential. When you learn to celebrate your progress, even the smallest milestones, you begin to cultivate inner peace that comparison can never give. Progress is quiet. It doesn't always look glamorous. It happens in the small, unseen moments when you choose patience over anger, when you show up even on hard days, when you decide not to give up despite the odds. These little victories, though invisible to the world, shape the foundation of success. The world measures success in results, but your soul measures it in resilience. You may not be where you want to be yet, but if you are growing, learning, and improving, then you are already on the right path. Comparison shifts your focus outward. It makes you chase what others have. Progress shifts your focus inward. It helps you discover what you already possess. The woman who learns to value her progress becomes unstoppable because she stops being distracted by noise. She no longer seeks validation from others because her sense of fulfillment comes from within. Her competition is not with another woman. It is with the version of herself she was yesterday. That is where real empowerment begins. It is important to understand that progress is not always linear. There will be days when you move forward quickly and others when you stumble or stand still. And that's perfectly fine. Growth is not about perfection, it's about persistence. When you compare yourself to others, you create unnecessary pressure. But when you focus on your own progress, you create purpose. The woman who embraces her pace, no matter how slow it seems, eventually reaches farther than the one who rushes without reflection. In 2026, the goal is not to be better than anyone else. It's to be better than who you were yesterday. It's to measure your growth not by likes or applause, but by peace of mind, confidence, and self-awareness. Did you handle a challenge better than last year? Did you forgive faster, love deeper, or stand taller? Those are the true markers of progress. Success that grows from within can never be taken away because it's rooted in authenticity, not approval. The art of focusing on progress over comparison teaches humility and gratitude. When you stop looking at others' lives, you begin to appreciate your own blessings more deeply. Gratitude shifts your energy. It turns what you have into enough. It allows you to move forward without bitterness or envy. And that emotional freedom is what brings real joy. So as you move through 2026, remind yourself daily that comparison only distracts you from your own growth. Everyone blooms in their own season, and yours is coming too. Keep watering your dreams, nurturing your confidence, and trusting your journey. Progress is not about reaching the destination first. It's about becoming the best version of yourself along the way. And when you focus on that, success stops being a competition and becomes a celebration of your unique evolution. Protect your peace, guard your growth. In the fast-paced, demanding rhythm of today's world, peace has become one of the most valuable yet neglected treasures. Women often find themselves stretched between responsibilities, juggling careers, relationships, family, and personal aspirations, while trying to maintain an image of calm and control. But the truth is, peace doesn't come from managing everything perfectly. It comes from knowing what truly deserves your attention. Protecting your peace is not about isolation. It is about intention. It is about choosing where your energy goes, what conversations you engage in, and what environments you allow yourself to stay in. In 2026, women must recognize that inner peace is not a luxury to be enjoyed occasionally. It is a foundation for sustained growth and happiness. When your mind is constantly occupied with stress, negativity, or unnecessary drama, it becomes impossible to grow. Growth requires space, mental, emotional, and spiritual. To protect your peace is to build that space within yourself, a sanctuary where your thoughts can breathe and your spirit can realign. You cannot cultivate growth in chaos, just as a seed cannot bloom in toxic soil. To flourish, you must first remove what suffocates you, whether it's a draining habit, a toxic relationship, or a constant fear of judgment. Guarding your growth means taking responsibility for your emotional environment. Not every battle deserves your response, not every opinion deserves your energy, and not every situation needs your presence. There is strength in silence, wisdom in withdrawal, and maturity in choosing peace over proving a point. Many women lose their calm trying to explain themselves to people who have already decided not to understand them. But real power lies in walking away from what disturbs your peace and protecting your focus like it's sacred. Because it is. Your peace fuels your purpose, and your purpose defines your progress. As women continue to evolve and take on larger roles in society, the demand for balance becomes more critical. Growth without peace leads to burnout. Peace without growth leads to stagnation. The magic lies in merging the two, progressing calmly, growing gracefully, and staying grounded while reaching higher. Protecting your peace is not about avoiding challenges, but about facing them with clarity. When your mind is calm, your decisions improve. You see situations for what they are, not what your emotions exaggerate them to be. That clarity becomes your greatest strength. To guard your growth, you must learn the art of boundaries. Boundaries are not walls, they are bridges that protect your energy while still allowing healthy connections. Saying no is not an act of rebellion, it's an act of self-respect. Every time you say yes to something that doesn't align with your values, you say no to your own growth. Boundaries teach others how to treat you, but more importantly, they remind you how to value yourself. In 2026, let peace be your compass. If something disturbs your peace repeatedly, it's a sign that it doesn't belong in your life anymore. Your growth is sacred, and so is your peace. The more you protect them, the more aligned your life becomes. A woman who guards her peace radiates confidence, not because everything is perfect, but because she no longer allows chaos to control her. She listens more, reacts less, and moves with purpose. Such a woman doesn't chase validation, she attracts respect. Her calmness becomes her power, and her consistency becomes her identity. When you start prioritizing peace, you begin to outgrow certain things. Arguments that once excited you, environments that once entertained you, and habits that once distracted you. Growth will sometimes mean losing people, but it will always mean finding yourself. Protecting your peace and guarding your growth are not selfish acts, they are necessary disciplines. Because the moment you learn to preserve your inner calm, you unlock your fullest potential. And when you grow with peace as your foundation, your success doesn't just look good on the outside, it feels right on the inside. Choose purpose over people-pleasing. This single shift in mindset can redefine a woman's entire journey in 2026. For generations, women have been subtly taught to measure their worth by how much they can please others, how well they fit expectations, how calmly they serve, and how gracefully they sacrifice. The desire to be liked, accepted, and appreciated often leads to a life lived for others' opinions rather than one driven by personal vision. But the truth is, you cannot build a fulfilling life on the fragile foundation of external approval. When your choices are dictated by the fear of disappointing others, you slowly lose sight of who you truly are. Choosing purpose over people-pleasing is not rebellion, it is liberation. Every woman is born with a purpose. a unique calling that adds meaning to her existence. That purpose may manifest as a dream, a passion, or a quiet inner voice guiding her towards something greater. But when the constant need to please takes over, that voice gets drowned out. You start saying yes when your heart screams no. You accept situations that drain your energy, and you compromise your own peace just to maintain harmony. Over time, this silent self-betrayal erodes confidence and clarity. Living to please others might earn temporary praise, but living with purpose earns lasting fulfillment. Choosing purpose means choosing authenticity. It means understanding that you are not here to meet everyone's expectations. You are here to fulfill your own potential. The woman who lives with purpose doesn't need to impress anyone. She inspires by being genuine. She knows that not everyone will understand her path, and that's perfectly fine because her journey is not a group project. People-pleasing is about survival. Purpose is about significance. One keeps you trapped in the fear of rejection. The other leads you toward growth, impact, and inner peace. When you prioritize purpose, you start making decisions that align with your values instead of your fears. You begin to filter your relationships not by how comfortable they are, but by how supportive they are. You start choosing projects that excite your spirit rather than just please your surroundings. And yes, the process may not be easy. Choosing purpose often means facing discomfort. You may lose some approval, face criticism, or even be misunderstood. But that discomfort is the price of freedom. The freedom to be yourself without apology. The habit of people-pleasing is deeply rooted in the desire for validation. But validation from others is fleeting. It changes with moods and opinions. Purpose-driven validation, however, comes from within. When you act in alignment with your truth, your confidence grows quietly and steadily. You no longer depend on applause to feel worthy because your self-worth is anchored in contribution, not in comparison. The woman who learns this truth becomes unstoppable. She doesn't chase attention. She commands respect through her integrity and focus. In a world full of noise, choosing purpose is choosing direction. It helps you stay centered when distractions surround you. It helps you rise after setbacks because you know what you're fighting for. Purpose gives meaning to pain, clarity to confusion, and courage to uncertainty. Without it, even success can feel hollow. That is why the shift from people-pleasing to purpose is not just emotional, it is transformational. It redefines how you spend your time, whom you spend it with, and what you are willing to tolerate. As women continue to lead in every sphere, professionally, socially, and personally, the need for purposeful living becomes more vital than ever. The world doesn't need more women who are exhausted from saying yes to everything. It needs more women who are bold enough to say no to what doesn't serve them and yes to what fuels them. Living with purpose doesn't make you arrogant. It makes you aware. It teaches you that not everyone deserves access to your energy, and not every opportunity aligns with your vision. When you stop trying to please everyone, you start pleasing the right one, you. And when you are at peace with yourself, your confidence becomes contagious. You become a force of inspiration, not by perfection, but by authenticity. Purpose brings clarity, strength, and grace, the kind that people-pleasing could never provide. Because when a woman chooses purpose, she no longer lives to be liked, she lives to make a difference. When a woman focuses on herself, she transforms the world. This simple truth carries a profound message that every woman must internalize as she steps into 2026. Society often portrays self-focus as a sign of arrogance or detachment, especially for women who are expected to always put others first. But the reality is that when a woman chooses to focus on her growth, her peace, and her purpose, she doesn't abandon her responsibilities, she enhances them. Her evolution becomes a light that guides others. Her confidence becomes a source of inspiration, and her strength becomes a foundation for those around her. When a woman rises, the world rises with her. Focusing on yourself is not about ignoring others, It is about becoming the best version of yourself so that everything you touch improves. A woman who invests in her own development, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually, naturally elevates the energy of her surroundings. She becomes more patient with her children, more compassionate with her loved ones, and more effective in her work. Her calm presence begins to influence others without her even trying. This is the quiet power of self-focus. It radiates outward like sunlight, warming everything it reaches. Too often, women are told that selflessness is the highest virtue. But selflessness without self-awareness leads to emptiness. When you neglect your own needs for too long, your giving becomes mechanical rather than meaningful. However, when you nurture your inner self, every act of kindness becomes more genuine and every contribution more impactful. By focusing on your own healing, you help heal others. By focusing on your own growth, you inspire others to grow. This ripple effect is what transforms families, communities, and ultimately the world. A woman who focuses on herself begins by understanding her worth. She no longer seeks approval to feel valued because she recognizes that her existence itself is meaningful. She sets goals not to impress but to express her creativity, her intelligence, and her vision. Her self-focus fuels her independence, and her independence fuels her confidence. She starts to make decisions that align with her values, even if they challenge tradition or expectation. She no longer waits for permission to pursue her dreams because she understands that purpose doesn't require validation, it requires action. As women across the globe continue to step into leadership, innovation, and influence, the impact of self-focus becomes even clearer. A woman who focuses on herself creates balance where chaos once existed. She knows that strength is not in constant struggle, but in consistent self-improvement. She learns to manage her emotions, not suppress them, to use her voice, not silence it. Such a woman doesn't compete with others. She collaborates, uplifts, and empowers because she understands that another woman's success is not her threat, but her reflection. When women focus on themselves collectively, they create movements. They redefine what success looks like, shifting it from appearance and approval to authenticity and purpose. They begin to challenge outdated beliefs that limit potential and replace them with examples of courage and self-worth. A generation of focused women becomes a generation of change makers, raising children who are emotionally aware, leading teams with empathy, and shaping societies with wisdom. The more a woman invests in her inner world, the more she contributes to the outer one. Self-focus also means embracing solitude, reflection, and discipline. It's not always glamorous. Sometimes it means walking away from relationships that hinder your growth or taking bold steps toward goals no one else believes in. But through every challenge, a woman who focuses on herself grows stronger and more grounded. She understands that real transformation begins in the quiet moments of self-discipline and clarity. And that transformation, though deeply personal, creates ripples that touch everyone she encounters. When a woman stands tall in her power, she becomes an example of what's possible. Her success gives others permission to dream. Her resilience shows others how to overcome. Her authenticity inspires others to be real. The impact of her self-focus extends far beyond her own life. It redefines what women everywhere believe they can achieve. And in that collective transformation lies the true essence of change. Because when women focus on themselves, they don't just improve their own lives, they create a world that is wiser, stronger, and more compassionate for everyone who follows. So, as we embrace 2026, I leave you with this thought. You owe yourself the love you so freely give to others. Focus on your inner strength, your joy, your peace, and your growth. Let this be the year you stop waiting for validation and start living for transformation. Because when women focus on themselves, the world doesn't lose its nurturers, it gains its true leaders. Thank you, and remember, your best investment in 2026 is you